Greetings from smalltech.com. Today we'll be making a custom registration form using ASP.NET, C#, and SQL. So we'll move right ahead to create an empty website, and we'll be calling this website custom registration form. Let's wait while Visual Studio configures the website, the empty website. We have also decided to open SQL Management Studio 2012, since we'll be also working with it to link Visual Studio to the SQL server. We're just waiting for SQL Manager to open. Okay, it is finally open. So let's add a new web form. Meantime, let's connect to the SQL Management Manager. Okay, so first thing, click web form, then we're going to rename it to custom registration form. Let's just take out the custom and call it registration form.aspx. Longer than expected. Okay, new query. Let's create a new query for SQL server. Alright, what we'll be storing inside the SQL server is basically the user information. So username, sorry, not username, their ID, first name, last name, password, and email address. So first, let's create the database by using SQL code. So create database custom registration form DB. Apparently this already exists on the system, so we need to rename the database something like custom registration DB. Highlight, then click execute. Okay, command completed successfully. Let's change the server to look for custom registration DB. Okay. Let's save this database. I've decided to save my database in the same folder in where I also have saved the Visual Studio website. However, you can save it wherever you like, but by default it will be stored in the SQL Management folder. It goes onto the folder. So let's create a new table. So create table, users, define our parameters. Okay. User ID, we're going to make it an integer, and we are using identity. Identity is basically the SQL way of doing an auto increment. So basically you'll be incrementing on its own. We have put inside the parameter 1 and 1. This means that the ID number will start from 1 and it will increment by 1. So every time that you add a new user to the database, it will only go up by 1. Okay, we have created the first name using the varchar 15 and not null because these are required fields. Same with last name. Email address is optional, and we have given it a parameter of 20, maximum letters 20, and we have given it a null because it can remain empty. And password. Okay, let's save this. Now we're going to create a stored procedure. For those who are not really familiar with stored procedures, these are functions, custom functions that we can build to do various tasks. Example, inserting records into a table. You can select from a table, you can do many things with it. Okay, so in the interest of time, we have just copied the columns that we have created in users. Okay, we need to differentiate the columns that we are using inside the stored procedure parameters. This means that whenever you're trying to store values, example, you're storing a user, only these parameters, first name, last name, email address and password will be accepted. So let's insert into users and values. Okay, users, these are the actual table names that we used in users, table users. In terms of values, the parameters that we created inside of this procedure is what we should be putting inside of values. Okay, so let's create this function, execute, save. Okay, so now we can go into Visual Studio. We need to create a new connection, database connection. Okay, so I need to put in my server name, the name of my server. Okay, now search for the name of the database that I've just created. Okay, test the database connection, which is successful, which is very important to do. Press OK. Give it time while it establishes the connection. Okay, so see there's a table, column users, and the stored procedure store users that we have created in SQL. Okay, so we'll be creating a new folder, ASP.NET folder called app_config. Okay, what will be stored inside of this folder will be the links to SQL class. So we have add new links to SQL data classes. Okay, we have decided to name our own custom registration database classes. You can give it whatever name you like, but make sure that it's clear. Okay, what we'll be putting inside here is the SQL database EDMX file. So this is where the structure of the SQL database that we had created will be defined. Let's wait while it's created. Okay, you'll notice there are two columns. The first column will drag and drop the table name, the table. Okay, it seemed to have disconnected, so let's refresh. Okay, the second column is where you place, example, the store procedures. So we'll now collapse store procedures and drag and drop store users. Okay, now save. Okay, you must save it before you close it. Okay, close it. Okay, now we're going to define the controls that will be found on the registration form. You can easily drag and drop tools, controls onto the page and configure it how you like, using the design view. However, my style is mainly to type it. So in the interest of time, I'm dragging and dropping up a couple labels and text boxes. Labels are basically what we'll use for the user to realize, okay, what this text box that is found below, what it does, what is needed there. Okay. The labels and text boxes that I'm creating right now, it is to store the first name, last name, password and email address. Will not be asking the user to enter any user ID, because remember in SQL, back in the SQL, when we were defining the SQL database, we had made user ID identity, which is auto increment, so it will automatically deal with that. Okay, so now I'm creating the control IDs. If you notice, I've used LBL, which means label, then first name, and then for text box I've used TXT, which means text box, first name. That is naming convention that I'm using. It is recommended. Now defining the different, I'm changing out the default ID and text for the labels, and for the text boxes just the ID I'm changing to suit my particular needs. So we are currently renaming the text box for the email address. For the email address is a special type, so we need to use a keyword text mode email. So we need to find email. Yes. Alright. So the next one we'll be creating would be the password. We need going to change the label to password. Okay, basically, let me explain text mode. Text mode is used it's a different type form that the text box can be used as. So if you choose email, it will store a particular email. Example, now I'm creating a text mode password. So what this means is that it will automatically mask the inputs for you, and if a page postback occurs, or you refresh the page or submit the page, it will erase the view state of this password. Okay, we have created an additional text box and label called retype password. However, what we'll be doing with this in a later video is adding validation controls to this registration form, in particular between the text box password and retype password. In a later video we'll be doing a comparison between them to see if they are similar. We're now adding a button that we'll use as our click event. So we'll name this button BTN, which stands for button register, and we'll give it text register. Okay, now we'll need to create a click event. There are two ways of doing a click event. Because we're not going to be using the retype password, right now we have decided to make it it's not visible, it's hidden. Since it won't be stored in the database, we can ignore it right now for now. Okay, so we're creating a click event. As seen, you can click the lightning bolt and double click on the click handler, or you can go in design view and actually double tap the button and it will automatically create it for you. Okay, so remember the data context file that was created when we created the database connection? Well, now we are creating an instance of it. We've decided to call this instance DB. Okay, so DB dot and then the store procedure name from the database. Store users. As defined here, you can see that the parameters: first name, last name, email address, and password. So we are currently in the particular parameter we're entering the control name txt first name dot text. The dot text is to convert it to a string, because so that it can be stored. The value from it can be stored inside the database. Dot text is used primarily for text boxes. Example, if you're using something like a drop-down list, it would be example Dropbox list probably names color pick or something like that. Would be dot selected value. I realized I forgot to put dot text for txt password, so that's the reason for that error. My bad. Okay, so let's build again. Control Shift B to build it. Okay, as you can see here, I've decided to let registration form act as our start page. So whenever the application has been built, the first page that it will go to is the registration form. So let's build this project and run it. Let's give it time as it loads the registration form. Okay, we are back. The registration form was loaded, so let's type in first name. So we'll call it Spud. Last name Testy. Okay, let's enter email address smudtech@gmail.com. Now we'll enter the password. Notice the text box is marked. Okay, we'll click the registration button, which triggers the store procedure. So let's stop this debug mode and let's check to see if it was saved inside of the table. So let's refresh it. Okay, let's open the table, show the table data. Voila, the data has been stored. The first name, last name, email address, password. In a later video, I will show you how to encrypt the password. Stay tuned, subscribe and rate. Thank you very much.